This is Miss Moomey back with another fun video today. I'm going to share with you something that I've made. I don't know if you will be able to do this at home. It is definitely something you might have the pieces for. It's a little more complicated, but I thought that you might really enjoy seeing me put it together, even if you don't do it at home. So I want to show you this huge hula hoop weaving that I've started. If you were with me to see the straw weaving we did, it's pretty much the same thing, except for you're going round and round instead of across. Over, under, remember our pattern? So I want to share with you how I did this, and just in case you might want to try it at home, it is really fun. I've really enjoyed it. And of course, I don't want to miss another chance to get to say hi to my girls and boys because I miss y'all so much. So, step one of weaving this huge hula hoop circle, I'm sure you're wondering what I used to weave it with, and you're thinking, oh, she just used yarn. Well, actually, I decided to use t-shirts instead. I've seen this done before, and I've always wanted to try it. It's not as easy as it looks, that's for sure, but it's really cool. You actually make your yarn out of old t-shirts. So, I had already done this quite a few times to get started on my weaving, obviously, so I want to show you how to start. First of all, I have a ton of t-shirts that my daughters aren't wearing anymore. I tend to have a lot of pointer colors, green, white, and black, just wonder why. So I'm going to cut off first where the writing is on the t-shirt. You can see that. I took that off first. And I'm actually going to save the writing part, and hopefully one day I will get good enough to do a quilt out of their t-shirts, which is a whole nother story. So anyway, so I've taken the top part of the t-shirt from here up off because the sleeves aren't helpful and the collars aren't helpful. And what you're aiming to do here is to make bands out of the t-shirt to start with. Technical terms for the weaving. This piece, this large piece on the hula hoop, is going to be the loom. And then we are going to put the warp pieces on first, which are the longer pieces that are going across the hula hoop, the loom. And then we're going to put these pieces on around that are called the weft. So those are our technical words for weaving. And so we've got to get our yarn ready to create the warp. So what we're going to do first is cut this bottom part of the t-shirt that I have ready to cut. I'm going to cut the bottom band off of it. So I also don't need that. I cut that piece off. So I'm hoping that these are going to be long enough. You're going to need more than just a little kid t-shirt to make them go all the way across. If I've used little kid t-shirts on here too, but if I use the little kid t-shirt, then I have to tie it. So, but if you get a bigger kid t-shirt or an adult t-shirt, even better, they'll stretch all the way across the hula hoop and it'll be a lot easier. So that's one little trick I've figured out so far. Because there is a way to cut, there's two ways to cut this. So I'm going to show you the first way to make the warp with. So I just cut a band all the way across. I cut both sides of the t-shirt at the same time. And so basically I have a big loop. And this loop will hopefully stretch across your hula hoop. Now my hula hoop is huge. It is way bigger, I think, than a typical hula hoop. But look, even now, it's still working. Look, I take this piece I just made, I pull it down onto the hula hoop. See, I've already done this, so I'm just trying to show you just how it's done. And you work them from the center Like you make a big plus sign first and then add more. And I'd say you need about 10 of these bands to get started with. Because you're gonna want, once you put 10 bands on, it basically ends up being 20 pieces all the way around. And I've got some pictures to show you where I actually put together the warp, and I'll put those in next so you can see that. And then I'm gonna show you the fun part of actually starting the weft. Now, I told you there were 2 ways to cut. So we've cut the bands. The way you wanna cut for the weft is a little bit different. You want as long a piece as you possibly can, and obviously this isn't gonna be a very long piece just by itself, right? And you don't wanna have to keep tying a piece together. I have a few of those pieces on here where you can see my little knots where I've tied from one color to the next. Well, you want as few of those as possible because that kind of makes it a little messier looking. But so anyway, there is actually a way to cut this where you're cutting it all one piece, which is nice. So I'm gonna cut again the same way I did, but I don't want to cut all the way to the end. So let me show you what I'm talking about. These are about 1 inch wide. They don't stay an inch wide once the knit is taken apart. It kind of becomes like a string, like a piece of yarn almost. So you see how I cut that? I did break it from the bottom, but I did not break it from the top. So I'm gonna do this back and forth. And you'll see why in a minute. It took me a little bit to get this. There's another way to do it that's a little, I couldn't quite get the concept of cutting on a diagonal. I didn't really understand that. So I kind of came up with my own way. So see how I keep it connected at the bottom, I'm connected at the top. So then I just keep flipping it each time. So every other one, I'm keeping it all the way to the bottom. So, see what I mean? Like this one's still connected, this one is not. The next one will be connected, the next one will not. Same thing at the bottom. Open, closed, open. And I'm gonna keep doing that till I get to the end of this piece. Now when you're done with this, I mean, it's big enough to make a small rug out of. So that would be pretty cool. You could actually use it. So I've still got my closed pieces. See how I'm doing that? That way, eventually it's gonna be one piece. See what I mean? One long piece. So if I'm not doing a good job explaining this, there's more on the cutting part. You can do it your own way. You can just cut slices, and you could take like the band and cut it in half, and that would be enough to get started if that's what you need to do, and then just tie the next piece on. It's not a big deal. It's how picky you are about what it looks like when you're done. And what I was doing with the pieces that I wasn't, you know, the tied pieces, I just put I could just lay those to the back of my weaving, that way you don't see it. All right, I'm on my last cut. So to make this one long piece, I'm gonna open, let's see, I wanna start these pieces where they're connected. See how they are connected like that? I'm gonna cut down the middle of that. I don't want to break them apart. That's the main thing. That's where I get confused. I'm going to start with one piece and have it be my end. See, now, and yes, there's a little hanging piece there in the middle. you can go back and clip these little squares that we got from the ends. And so I just take them and round them off a little bit more. And then once you actually start weaving, it actually kind of rolls up anyway. So it kind of makes you a long strand rolled up. So you're just going to keep going, and that way you'll have plenty of yarn, of t-shirt yarn for your weft. So let's get on to the fun part. Let me show you how to start this and how it's going to look. I've got a couple of pictures as I was working on it, and then I want to be able to actually show you as I weave a little bit yourself so you can see it. So I hope you're excited to see what it looks like in the end. I am. I'm ready to get to the end so I can see how big it's going to be. Okay, I wanted to get real good up and close so that you can see my weaving as I go. I just started with the band, the first band I had, and I cut it in half. That way I have just enough to show you. Alright, so I'm going to tie, this was my last color, was the black, and I'm going to tie the green to it. So I start tying and tie it in a knot. Make sure it's real nice and tight or it will come undone. And then you can cut, like I said, you're gonna leave your tails. This is the back side, I'm gonna consider it. So I'm gonna leave my tails to the back. So that way, let me show you. You can't see the tails on the front, okay? All right, I've got this hanging on the wall. Notice I've got all my little pieces evenly spread out as best I can. I've got 3 different colors going on. All right, so here we go. Make sure you can see. My last that I can see was under the orange. So it's gonna go over the black, then under, over, under, over, under, over. You see my pattern there? Over, under, over. And I'm gonna push those up nice and tight. Especially if you're gonna make this into a rug. You want it to be tight. You don't want it to come undone. So I'm gonna keep going all the way around. Make sure I don't miss one. Over, under. And see, I'm just holding the end as I go. If your kids are doing this, I would definitely keep it a shorter piece. If it's a bigger piece, it's kind of hard for them to hold. So, under, over, under. Make sure you can still see. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over. And making sure it's nice and tight. Under, over, under, over. I'm gonna just keep going until I run out of space, till I run out of yarn. Now I should be on the green, like the last one I was under here, I should be over here. So you can check yourself as you go to make sure you did the last one right. All right, I'm coming to the end. And then I'll just tie another piece on and keep going round and round. I think you'll get the hang of it. I started off that way. It was a little tricky when I first started because some of the warp was, some of it, you know, it's doubled if it's in a, like this, if you went across and back in a band. Then some of them were single because I'd cut them and just tied them. So just use those doubles as one. I just count that as one and go under the whole two, if that makes sense. So I'm going to keep working on it a little bit, and hopefully I can show you my final piece of weaving. I guess I'm gonna let you guys go for today. I'm gonna keep working on this, and I will post my finished picture of my weaving when I'm done. But this would be a really fun weekend project, especially since today's Friday, for you maybe to try over the weekend. But I just used a very basic kid hula hoop. I'd probably go for a smaller one unless you want a really big rug when you're done. You could take a week working on this even. It would be a good part-time when the kids are bored with schoolwork or doing something else. Maybe they might want to weave. It's very therapeutic after a while when you start doing that same pattern over and over again, and you start to see some product as you finish. So it's really kind of fun. So I will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. I love you guys.